There is a moment of truth that between wanting something and actually getting it the moment when your brain starts negotiating with you. You feel the inertia. You hesitate. You think, do I really want this? It's hard. I'm tired. Maybe later. That hesitation is the exact moment when your dreams begin slipping away. Understanding this requires us to recognize what neuroscience has labeled activation energy. It's the tiny jolt required to disrupt inertia, just enough push to get your body moving and your mind engaged. Mel Robbins began championing this idea after studying psychology and behavioral science, developing a method she termed the 5-second rule. When an urge or an intuition strikes, like getting out of bed, making a difficult phone call, or starting a project, you count backward, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and act. That countdown interrupts the habit loop triggered by fear or procrastination and sparks momentum. Importantly, motivation is unreliable. Studies have shown that even the most driven people experience powerful moments of resistance. Those are the moments that break most people. But you don't need motivation, you need action. The 19th day of a new habit is when most people quit. It's not that the plan failed, it's that motivation wore off, and without a mechanism to overcome that dip, activity falters. The brilliance of taking action immediately lies in its simplicity. You don't need overwhelming clarity or the perfect circumstance. You just need a decision. When the alarm rings, you don't hit snooze. You count backwards, jump out of bed, and get moving. Experts confirm that repeated snoozing leads to sleep inertia, disrupting your cognitive rhythm and making you duller contrast. That little 5-second countdown resets your system. You act first, think later. The momentum begins, and suddenly, just like that, you're awake, committed, moving. When you work hard in silence, that discipline begins with this same principle. You don't wait for motivation to upload you into action. You don't announce grand plans. You simply decide and start. Every time you resist broadcasting and instead choose to execute, you're building the muscle of quiet momentum. For instance, imagine you're sitting at your desk with a blank page in front of you. Your heart races. You know the words aren't ready. The ideas haven't crystallized, and part of you wants to scroll your phone. You feel that hesitation. You count back 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and your fingers hit the keyboard. That's all it takes. You don't need motivation. You just need to start. This habit compounds. Each time you act before hesitation, your brain learns that action is the default response, not stalling. Resistance loses its power. What once threatened to derail your day becomes just another cue to start. And over time, your quiet work builds not just the project, but your identity. You become the person who shows up regardless of whether anyone's watching. This practice is the foundation of working hard in silence. It teaches you to trust process over recognition. In those early hours of creation, when no one is watching you do the thing anyway, you don't wait for enthusiasm, you spark it yourself. You don't demand validation. Your results validate themselves later. Take action immediately every time. That small choice counting down, standing up, hitting start echoes through your life. Momentum compounds. Habits reshape your reality. Your quiet work becomes your loudest statement. The moment something distracts you, emails pinging, notifications flashing, someone asking a question, your focus is hijacked. And when you constantly hand your focus over to whatever demands it most urgently, the result is exhaustion, spinning in circles, and compromised progress. Own your focus. That shift is what separates people who are tossed around by life's currents from those who steer themselves calmly toward their destination. Living in control of your attention is non-negotiable, because if you don't consciously protect your mental space, you lose your power. You become reactive, responding to alerts instead of leading your day. That's a silent productivity assassin. Accepting this truth that you alone choose what earns your mental bandwidth is the essence of owning focus. Here's the science. Psychology confirms the more you try to micromanage what others do, the more out of control you start feeling. In contrast, people who ground themselves in what they can manage their mindset, actions, and attention stay calmer. That's the heart of the let them philosophy. Shift energy away from trying to control others and back toward what you can control. As one expert puts it, emotional peace comes from focusing on where your time and energy go, not on what other people do. Each moment you rig your focus toward intentional action, You reclaim control over your life. Owning your focus is radically simple yet incredibly difficult in practice. You acknowledge noise and distraction for what they are, thieves of potential. When the compulsion to check your phone arises, you pause. Instead of reflexively scrolling, you breathe and ask, is this necessary now? If not, let it wait. You set boundaries around your attention. You deciding my work time is work time. Email checks come later. That requires discipline, and discipline is the act of saying no to what steals your attention every single time. On Reddit, readers spoke of discipline and boundaries in exactly that way. One commenter noted that setting boundaries, even saying no to late-night messages or toxic demands, was not selfish, but the purest form of self-care and focused protection. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters that preserve your attention for what matters. When you work hard in silence, owning your focus means you don't need external validation mid-process. You don't hijack your energy chasing applause. You stay in your groove, doing the work that matters. You don't ask for feedback every hour. You don't post your draft before it's ready. You complete it in stillness, then let the output speak. This mindset is magnetic. When others see someone moving with unwavering attention to their work, to their craft, they see quiet confidence. And that quiet confidence becomes louder than any instant praise could have been. Results become your statement. The disciplined steward of your own attention is the most compelling presence. Every morning, when you choose to start your day on your own terms, silencing notifications, defining time blocks, choosing one task over 10 trivial ones, you train your mind. With each use of that structure, focus becomes easier, more automatic, like building muscle. As you repeat it, momentum accumulates. The longer you maintain that rhythm, the more stable your inner engine. Even in chaos, owning your focus gives you strength. You may be surrounded by noise, yet your internal anchor holds you steady. You stop reacting to every drama. You land softly in response rather than spiraling in reaction. That internal quality becomes your superpower. There's a powerful story shared by readers who use this approach. One person described remaining calm amid pandemic uncertainty by choosing to direct their attention only toward meaningful steps each day: quiet planning, journaling, learning, small wins. Others lost themselves scrolling, anxious, struggling. Those who chose focus pulled ahead. They weren't frenetic, they were intentional. If you're trying to build something, skill, habit, business, focus is the currency. Every interruption costs you momentum. Every half-attention moment chips away at consistency. To own your focus is to stake a claim on your success. In that silent discipline, you build trust with yourself. You prove you can attend to hard work, unseen and uncelebrated. Your inner promise becomes inviolable. It doesn't need spotlight to know it matters. The world may not see the daily focus sessions, but when the outcome arrives, it will feel undeniable. That ultimately is what owning your focus does. Inside silence, you harness your invisible power. You decide where your energy goes. You act on what matters. And in that consistency, success does make the noise because you've earned it. Momentum isn't built with noise. It's built with tiny intentional actions that rack up over time. When you choose to work silently, you're giving yourself room to start small, stay steady, and let those minuscule victories compound into something undeniable. This principle, build momentum in quiet, is the secret to sustainable progress without depending on external hype or applause. Research in psychology calls it the progress principle. A Harvard study analyzing 12,000 daily journal entries revealed that the single most powerful predictor of motivation and high performance is feeling like you're making progress, even if that progress is small and private. When you recognize that quiet wins spark internal drive, you understand the worth of momentum over motivation. Here's how it works in practice. You may never post about the 5 minutes you spent outlining your next piece of work, but that 5-minute outline primes your brain. That outline leads you to write a paragraph, then another, then a page. Those incremental moves release dopamine, a feel-good chemical response that reinforces behavior. It's your brain's reward system celebrating small action, keeping you energized even when your goal feels distant. That dopamine loop helps you keep going. Momentum thrives on micro goals. Instead of shooting for the moon immediately, focus on the 2-minute rule. If something takes less than 2 minutes, just do it. Write one sentence, read one paragraph, tidy one drawer. These micro wins set a rhythm, and each one reinforces your ability to begin again the next day. Pretty soon, starting isn't the hardest part anymore, stopping is. Here's the power of private momentum, no pressure. No one is following your daily stats. You simply keep showing up, setting micro goals and meeting them. Each check on your to-do list is a confirmation that you can follow through even in silence. Over time, the shape of progress becomes visible without shouting. Your confidence rises, your self-efficacy strengthens, and you see yourself as someone who completes more than they plan. But private momentum isn't about suppression. It's about strategy. You create quiet rituals, time, blocking for focus, tracking progress in a journal, celebrating a small win with a moment of silence or an inward high five. These rituals harness behavioral reinforcement. Each action triggers neural circuits that remind your brain expecting a payoff is worthwhile. This is implementation intention, framing your internal system with if-then plans. If I sit down to write, I write at least one sentence. If I complete a task, I record it so action becomes automatic over time. The effect is compounding. Momentum is like interest. It starts slowly, then accelerates. The small wins feel so lightweight you hardly notice, but the momentum they create powers bigger action. Each completed task, even in solitude, builds trust with yourself. You no longer wait for excitement, you create your own. You don't need external validation because you know who you are, someone who does the work day after day. That's real confidence even before others notice. When the results finally emerge, whether a polished project, a completed chapter, or a stronger habit, your output speaks volumes. You don't have to explain your journey. The visible outcome is the noise. And that noise matters because it's solid. Underneath is a foundation built from invisible effort, internal victories, and daily progress in silence. That's the quiet momentum mindset. Micro wins without the microbial critique, consistency without performance anxiety, gradual progress without broadcasting. You may start with just one step. Day after day, that step becomes part of a stride. Eventually, the silent builder becomes the significant presence. Your momentum carries you more powerfully than words ever could. Silence is not emptiness, it's stored power. When your world quiets down, real energy begins brewing. Silence recharges the nervous system, calms cognitive overload, and gives your most creative instincts room to breathe. This is silence not as absence, but as fuel for focus, resilience, and internal momentum. Modern life bombards us with noise alerts, chatter, media, multitasking everywhere. Every ping fractures attention and pumps adrenaline. Over time, this auditory barrage shuts your brain into a fight or flight rhythm. But research confirms that even brief pockets of silence rewire your basic physiology. Just 2 minutes without any sound can reduce cortisol, stabilize heart rate and blood pressure, and deliver more peace than a relaxing melody ever could. Silence turns down stress and turns up clarity. It quiets racing thoughts, allowing you to observe internal noise rather than be swept away by it. That stillness builds cognitive reset. Your brain consolidates ideas, integrates experiences, and regains capacity. When you spend a few minutes in silence, free of distraction, that clarity becomes your springboard into your best work. In the world of silent work, you don't need flashy pep talks before every session. You sit quietly, begin the task, and let your attention deepen. You may not feel energized at first, but within minutes, your focus crystallizes. That internal depth becomes your fuel. Silence is also how growth happens. 2 hours a day of quiet has been linked in studies to new neuron formation in the hippocampus, the region tied to memory and learning. That alone should redefine how you view stillness. It doesn't steal time, it plants seeds. New mental pathways form, insights emerge, and mental resilience strengthens. Creativity thrives in this quiet space too. When you remove external stimulation, your mind drifts into the default mode network where our most unforced, unedited ideas surface. Brainstorming, problem solving, unexpected connections all happen when the noise disappears and wild thoughts get room to play. Silence also builds self-awareness. In recesses of stillness, you recognize patterns, fear, boredom, distraction that you didn't notice before. You name what's happening inside: stress, frustration, ambition. Understanding these internal cues gives you leverage. Rather than reacting to impulses, You choose an intentional response. That clarity of choice becomes fundamental to working in silence and working hard. But silence as fuel doesn't mean walling off the world forever. It means carving pockets of quiet morning minutes, walk breaks without music, unmuffled thinking time. You may call it a cone of silence around critical work periods. Leading organizations foster it in their teams, giving people permission to focus deeply during the day. When you approach your workday with that silent fuel tank, you don't start with scattered energy. You begin grounded, like lighting a fuse under intention. Over time, that internal energy becomes sustainable momentum. It's no longer about pushing hard every minute. It's about aligning your attention, resting your brain, then unleashing deep action. In silence, even listening gets deeper. You're more present with your own thoughts and more empathetic with others. When you speak, your words carry weight because others have learned silence in your presence. That resonance becomes real influence. The quieter you are internally, the more trustworthy you appear externally. Using silence as fuel also means using solitude to your advantage, not lonely escapes, but intentional recharging. Studies show that silent walking in nature, without audio distractions, improves cognitive function, lowers stress, and strengthens memory. Each time you lean into silence by closing notifications, rejecting background media, or scheduling quiet, the payoff is exponential. Your productivity becomes sharper, your decisions clearer, your creativity richer. Silence doesn't rob you of momentum, it unleashes it. Within silence, your mind grows stronger. Your attention becomes your own. Creativity emerges organically. Internal clarity becomes visible results. When success finally arrives, it won't be loud, it will be undeniable. Intentions feel inspiring. Declarations grab attention. But intentions alone don't build muscle, launch ideas, or move people forward. What actually moves the needle is results. When you work hard in silence, you don't need to be talkative. Your results do the talking. Let outcomes carry the weight. This is the power of results speak louder. Psychology research repeatedly drives home that behavior, not words, defines reality. A detailed piece in Psychology Today explains that while words may dominate social media and conversation, actions are the truest insight into values and priorities. They're the evidence. When your behavior doesn't match your stated goals, your behavior is what counts. The weight of behavior over words is profound. Mark Twain may have quipped, "Action speaks louder than words, but not nearly as often." In other words, people promise, talk, post, but seldom follow through. When someone genuinely delivers, their outcome speaks volumes. It reveals authenticity and discipline where words fall flat. Here's the thing, when you focus on results rather than signaling, your work becomes a reference point. People stop asking what you plan to do, they look at what you've done. That credibility is built in quiet labor, not flashy declarations. Mental health professionals echo this. Therapy emphasizes that real change happens through action. The old beliefs may shift only after behavior changes. Cognitive dissonance theory shows that when we act differently than we think, our internal narrative eventually follows. In therapy, your head and heart will follow your feet. Behavior leads. Thought follows. This matters for your silent hustle. You don't announce half-completed drafts or every brainstorm session. Instead, outcomes, finished projects, better skills, tangible progress demonstrate your commitment. When you rise, it's undeniable. In business as well, organizational studies affirm that leadership effectiveness is judged not by speeches, but by performance. A study of manufacturing teams showed that the managers who achieved results better output. Satisfied clients outperformed those who talked more, praised more, but delivered less. Results trump talk every time. If you want your discipline to be persuasive, let results speak. Don't post about the dozens of videos you recorded, share the final course. Don't tell everyone you're starting a book, deliver the finished manuscript or first chapter. Share the work once it can stand on its own merit. Implementation science further supports this. Setting a plan with intent isn't enough. Timely execution matters more. James Clear's research points out that when you plan when and where you'll act, your likelihood of execution skyrockets, but only if you follow through with behavior, not just talk. In action-oriented communities online, readers frame it simply. Well done is better than well said. Actions speak louder than thoughts. What? Talk without the support of action means nothing. That sums it up. Anyone can post their aspiration, but few can show the outcome. In daily routine, that means you cut the public updates about your plans. You choose quiet focus, finish the project, then publish. Train in private, then compete. Create quietly, then release. Success built this way commands attention precisely because it wasn't broadcasted first, it simply appeared. When results arrive, they carry a magnetic intensity. They speak credibility, competence, and control. They invite curiosity. How did they do that? What's their process? That attention is earned. In contrast, noise only promises breed distrust. When someone regularly signals intention without delivering, their voice loses weight. Their next announcement feels empty. Others begin to disbelieve not because the person lacks morals, but because their behavior undermines their words. So focus on building results in silence. Choose consistency over attention, execution over announcement, substance over optics. Let results become your loudest statement. Simplify and execute means stripping away complexity so that progress becomes possible, then charging forward with clarity and speed. It's about turning overwhelming goals into bite-sized actions through implementation intentions and unleashing momentum via instant, decisive steps. This is the firepower that turns aspiration into achievement. At the heart of this approach lies implementation intentions, a powerful psychological tool from goal-setting science. The structure is straightforward. If X happens, I will do Y. Research shows that forming these if then plans doubles the likelihood of success across many domains, from sticking to exercise to getting flu shots. Specifying when and where you'll act, you bypass decision paralysis and prime your brain for execution. For example, instead of saying, I'll write tomorrow, you might specify, if it is 8 a.m., then I will open my document and write for 15 minutes. By anchoring your action in a cue time, location, or event, you automate momentum. Psychology today explains that implementation intentions create mental links between cues and actions, making follow through more automatic, even under stress. But simplicity isn't only about planning, it's also about overcoming hesitation. That's where the instant action technique comes in. Drawing on that simple 5-second countdown strategy, you disrupt the spirals of doubt and hesitation that stop 90% of people before they begin. Count $5,000, 3, 2, 1, and DO. Jump out of bed, start that email, send the pitch in silence without fanfare. Embedded in each brief execution is energy, confidence, a signal. This gets done. Research confirms that a countdown timer, even one invented on the spot, makes decisions faster and stronger together. Implementation intentions and near instant execution form a potent combo. Plan first, then act fast. Plan if I get home at 6, I'll open my laptop. Act to countdown, open it. You don't debate whether it's raining or if you're in the mood. You do what you said you'll do. This removes friction. It refocuses your willpower on progress rather than deliberation. Another layer of this simplicity formula is chunking. Big goals often paralyze. Writing a book, launching a business, the mountain looks too tall. But when you break it into micro projects, first page, first landing page, first outreach, the work becomes manageable. Each micro action serves as an implementation intention cue. If I sit at the desk, I write 200 words. Before long, one cue triggers another, momentum builds, and what once felt scary feels doable. Research supports this approach. Studies on implementation intentions reveal that people equipped with if-then framing are not only more persistent, they're flexibly tenacious. They push forward even when faced with minor setbacks, yet know when to pivot intelligently. The mind automatically adapts. If this doesn't work, then I adjust. You execute and you refine quietly and continuously. Strategic simplicity also extends to focus. When you know exactly what you're doing, when and where your attention funnels into silent execution instead of being siphoned by social media, multitasking, or uncertainty. A clear plan eliminates questions like, what should I do now? You just do. Just execute. Just flow. This method isn't reactive, it's proactive. You anticipate likely distractions or decision points and pre-program reactions. For instance, if I check email, I will immediately close it after 2 messages. Or if I feel doubt mid-task, I'll take 10 deep breaths and refocus. With each contingency addressed, the execution process becomes smooth, taking pressure off your mental system. The payoff: Every micro execution becomes an undeniable step forward. Before anyone even sees your work, you've built real forward motion. This builds confidence from within. You see your trajectory, feel your progress, and validate yourself with proof, not with others' validation. And because you're quietly executing, you preserve energy for the work itself rather than exhausting it on spectacle or self-promotion. Simplify and execute is silent power in action. You build systems, cues, structure, and then follow through. You don't wait until you have time, inspiration, or a crowd. You just do it. No noise, no drama, just momentum. And when results emerge, they arrive as an unavoidable echo of persistent action, not a beg for attention, because your results have all the volume they need. You've learned the power of turning speech into action, the strength in owning your attention, the way quiet victories build unstoppable momentum, how stillness refuels your mind, and why your results should speak for themselves, not your words. You even discovered that simplicity backed by immediate execution unleashes your internal engine. When we transform intention into behavior, we align with the fundamentals of human psychology. Actions speak louder than words. As behavioral science shows, what we truly notice and trust is what is observable, not what is proclaimed. That's why working in silence isn't retreat, it's deliberate calibration of your internal compass. By taking action immediately, you snap behavior into motion before doubt takes over. When you own your focus, you reclaim authority over your day and protect your progress. Through building momentum in quiet, you harness the subtle power of micro, wins that compound into transformation. By using silence as fuel, you tap into restorative cognitive space that reinforces clarity, creativity, and resilience. When your results speak louder, you send a signal that can't be ignored because outcomes carry undeniable credibility. And by simplifying and executing, you remove friction and hesitation, creating a pathway from intention to impact every time. Imagine this: you begin your day by counting down and taking that first step with purpose. You eliminate distractions, carve out quiet, focused time, and chip away at your work with deliberate micro actions. You produce meaningful outcomes and release them into the world without preamble or hype. Your work lands and the impact echoes. There's no need for a spotlight. Your results do the talking. That's the essence of this journey. Quiet discipline over public declaration, internal momentum over external validation. And as long as you continue this pattern, act swiftly, protect your attention, build through silence, and let your actions resonate, you will become unstoppable.